Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to show you a lead, a Psytrance lead that I'm developing at the moment, and I'm using it in a track that I'm producing. And as I was developing this lead, I thought, apart from being a pretty cool lead, I think there's something that I can share, and music producers like yourself could learn from it. And that's why I'm posting this YouTube video. And I think check it out. It's not only a cool lead, but the crux of it is that I'm using a method in Serum that I think personally is totally underutilized by other producers out there. So the technique that I'm talking about is the bus processing. Bus processing within Serum is totally, in my opinion, not getting the recognition it should, because it adds a real lot of special, nuances to a sound that you wouldn't get without it. And I personally don't know but another way to do this in terms of isolating certain MIDI notes in your sequence, and just applying a specific effect to those notes, being maybe on a higher pitch or being maybe a longer length of note. So those kind of things you can do with bus processing, and I'm going to show it to you in a second. So stick around. Let's jump into Serum, and I will show you the preset. I'm going to leave it in the description to download. So feel free to take it and make it your own. But without further ado, let's jump in, and I'll show you how this firstly sounds, and then we can go in and develop it or create it right from scratch. So I've got a short MIDI clip here, and with a little bit of kick and bass and other effects just to spice it up a bit. But the MIDI clip, don't think too much about it. It's something I just developed a couple of minutes before the video for demonstration purposes. So this is what it sounds like. Okay, so the lead that you heard there, that's obviously the one that I'm talking about. It's a grungy, distorted kind of lead, um, a little aggressive, but that's exactly what I wanted to get out of it. And it's based on a saw wave mostly, but let me start right from scratch. I'm going to init the preset so we can develop that sound from scratch. And like I said, it all starts with a saw wave. And a saw wave is actually perfect for this. I've tried other waveforms for this specific one, and always come back to the saw because I think the saw is just that brassy, deeper kind of a voice that we need. And of course, the saw contains all the harmonics of the frequency curve, and that's what we want. So we can actually sculpt it using filters and the like. So saw wave it is, and what I typically do is I drop it down an octave, and the coarse pitch is a major player in this sound. We're going to use an envelope to modulate that coarse pitch. So of course, envelope one, leave it exactly like it is, like the initialized preset gives you. That's the perfect shape for what we want to achieve here. Envelope 2 is what we'll use for the coarse pitch. And just drop it on there. You don't have to mess with any of the, percentages or keep it exactly like it is bipolar. Uh, but we obviously need to change the shape of this envelope. And here it's going to depend a little bit on your specific MIDI note length. If you've got really, really short, let's say 16ths, then this can your decay can be relatively short. But if you've got some longer notes, then you've got to go and manipulate a little bit on the decay, just so that the coarse pitch actually runs its full cycle. Right, so let me try and explain what I mean with that. So we'll play this MIDI clip and we'll play around with the sustain and the decay, and you'll hear what I'm talking about. If I bring the decay down too much, it doesn't complete the full cycle. So it sounds a little bit maybe even out of tune because it needs to contain the coarse pitch needs to run its full cycle. So if I bring it for this specific sound to something like that, like a shark fin with obviously no attack, bring the attack down, decay and sustain are the two players here, but roughly that shape. But the only thing that's going to, for your specific sound, if you want to make this yours, just play around with the decay to make sure that that full coarse pitch completes its cycle. Otherwise, like I said, it's going to sound a little out of tune maybe. So that is what I need to set up for the oscillator A. That's it. The other things that I typically do, and of course we'll go into the filter in a second, but I do advise that if you do have MIDI notes that have different velocities, and this is not specific to this preset, this is in general, you have to modulate the level of the oscillator. So we do want, just quickly go to the matrix level. You do want to get that kind of setup going, right? So the velocity is then fed into the level, otherwise you won't hear the different velocities. So that's something you have to do um, probably in all your processing anyway. And then as a matter of course, I just usually turn mono and legato on, and I churn the portamento up to about that position. Just so if you do have overlapping notes, you do want to have that kind of setting. So it glides from one to another. Unless, of course, you do want to have sudden stops between the notes, then you'll have to, um, bring that down. But portamento is something that I typically do in these presets. So level is in there, portamento, legato, and mono is switched on for this preset at least. And now let's go to the filter. Let's turn this on. I will choose a bandpass, and the band 12 is a good one to use for this specific filter. I mean, yeah, for this preset. Drive up to about 50% roughly. Fat about 50%, resonance about 50% as well. And then of course we're going to modulate the cutoff. But let's just listen to it and manually play around with the cutoff so we can get a feeling. So it seems like we do want to start the cutoff around here. If I go if I go lower, there's going to be quite a bit of distortion applied later on in the effects, as you see. If you go lower, that distortion becomes a little too heavy. So I'd start the frequency modulation cutoff around at that point. Okay, so with that said, let's find an LFO to do it. LFO1 is a perfect start. So the other thing is the mode of the LFO is important. You don't want retrig, and that's the default. So remember to switch that over to free, because we do want this whole LFO process to complete. Retrig is just going to start with 0, and depending on the note length, it may go into a certain spot, but it won't finish the whole cycle as we would want for this specific sound. So free is the setting there. A rate is of course important. I typically do, let's do a dotted and a dotted half. How about that? This shape is perfect. Let's leave it as a triangle as it is. So LFO1, drop it on the cutoff, and we probably don't need as much of a range as the default gives us, so bring it down a bit. But of course, that's totally user preference as well. And with that, let's play it and just see what it does right now. Okay, well, that's a good start. So now we've got that set up. The next important part, of course, is the effects. And you'll see that there's a main section here and then two bus effects. And we'll go into the buses in a minute. The main effect is going to obviously just be applied to whatever effects we have here. It's going to be applied to all the notes in my sequence. And the buses can be kept separate. And like I said, I'll go into that in a second. So let's just start. I typically start with a distortion. Tube is fine. We can choose to actually get a pre-frequency setup if we want, or we can just turn it off. We'll play around with that in a second. The drive, I typically go full blast, and the mix full blast. And let's just listen to it as we have it right now with off. You can hear those lower frequencies actually do get distorted quite a bit, so that's nice. That's what we want. And so that's a good start. Like I said, we can play around with pre at some point and move this around, but for now, let's just turn that off and keep it like that. The other thing that I typically put on this specific sound is a convolve, and I like the woodpecker preset, and we can play around with the size. I usually bring it up to about 200%. Just increase the size a little bit, and of course the mix is important to play around with. I actually like that boxy sound that the convolve brings, but of course be careful with the mix. Don't overdo it. I may actually bring this down a bit, but for now, let's keep it like that. The next one is a flanger. It's always a good addition. Again, mix is very important here, not to overdo it. Feedback is the key as well. So let's play it and play around with some of these things. Okay, let's stick with that. And reverb, of course. And I typically go for a whole. And I typically just turn the reverb up until you can hear it, and then bring it down until you maybe just can hear it, or maybe even can't hear it. That's the position that you want to be All right, something like that. And last but not least, the compressor. And I typically go for a multi-band compressor, and I'm quite aggressive with the threshold, and bring the ratio down a bit to 3:1 roughly. And you can play around with the high, mids, and lows as per your liking, and we'll turn the mix down, but for now, let's just listen to it. I know this is quite aggressive, but I'm going to turn the mix down so it's not going to be that crazy. So again, this is on the fly. This is very quick. If you download this preset, as I would hope you do, obviously make it your own. Churn this up or down the way you feel like it. The preset that I'm using in my track is, of course, I spent quite a bit more time on polishing it up really, really nice. This is just on the fly, and I'm sure that there's going to be some settings that can change here to make the sound better. So these are the effects on the main bus right now. So bus 1 is what we can use for the one effect that's sort of conspicuous in its absence here, and that's the delay. You know, you always, or I always, put some kind of delay to my effects, and we're going to save bus 1 for demonstrating that specific delay effect, the delay. So let's put that on there, and let's quickly program that ping pong. Let's make this not a quarter, but maybe make it eight notes. And let's make it dotted. And for now, let's turn the feedback and the mix quite high so we can actually hear the effect, and then we can bring it back down as we audition it. So now we've got something on the bus 1, and that's the delay. Nothing on bus 2, which is fine for demonstration purposes. So how do I bring this delay into my mix? So in the mix area, you'll see that there's an oscillator A with a bus 1 and a bus 2 and some other other controls that I'm not going to go into. But the bus 1 and bus 2, those are on oscillator A, and the same is on the filter. This filter I didn't use in my oscillator, so that's why it's grayed out. But you have bus 1 and bus 2 under the filter section as well. So the first question that probably comes to mind is, what's the difference between the bus 1 and bus 2 here and the bus 1 and bus 2 here under oscillator A? So the difference is, if I want my bus 1, which is the delay effect, to not go through the filter that I've set up in my oscillator A. If I don't want that to go through the filter, then this is the control that I'm going to use under oscillator A. If I do want this delay to also be subjected to the filter effect, which is that bandpass 12 that we set up in oscillator A, if I do want that, this is the control to use. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward if you think about it this way. This is applying the filter, this is not applying the filter to this delay. And yeah, so let's stick with that, short and sweet, and I'm going to demonstrate this in a second. So if I play my sound and I start manipulating this setting versus this setting, you'll see that the delay starts lighting up there. And let's just do that. So that was sending that delay as a parallel signal past the filter, and it's really parallel processing of this delay. If I want to send this through the filter, so you get the idea. It's difficult to discern which one is better at the moment, but for now, that's the difference between filter and oscillator A settings. Now the question is, what am I going to do now? Am I going to just leave it there at a specific setting? If I choose this oscillator A section, it's not really going to do what we want, right? It's going to wash out that delay, and it's defeating the purpose, what I wanted to achieve here. So I'm not just going to open it up and leave it there and get delayed on everything. So let's move that back. I do want to isolate certain notes in my MIDI, right? That is what I told you right in the beginning, and this is what we're going to demonstrate. So what notes can I isolate? I could choose to use only longer notes. So in my MIDI, you'll have short notes and longer notes. So let's try that on for size, and then I'll show you another method as well. So let's use LFO2 for it, and let's just say the longer notes. Let's do this and just start from scratch. Let's just let's just build some uh, kind of form out here that we can use, and something like that. So what this is going to give us is, as the notes get played and we've got it on read trig mode, it's going to start every note from 0. Some of those notes are actually going to reach that area, the longer notes, and some won't. So, and of course, we can use the rate here to manipulate the longer notes to actually reach that area and the shorter notes to fall short. So let's play it, and of course, I've got to drop the LFO on this bus 1 control, and we can try it and see how it goes. So with that setting, rate setting, you'll see that some of them just about barely reach, but we do want to manipulate that the longer notes to Okay, so you see that some of them go in there, some they obviously light up on this delay meter. Of course, we've got a delay that's totally washed out. We've got a full feedback and a full mix. So we'll go back and churn that down a bit. But that just gives us an idea of which notes will fall into the delay. So let's quickly go back and Okay, so you get the idea. There you can also see the notes lighting up as they hit the bus 1, and of course the delay that's linked to the bus 1. So now we have a method to catch all the long notes and apply the delay to the longer notes. You can play around with the delay volume here, tweak it as per your liking. Let's just keep it at 0 for now. So that's one way. The other way that we can choose is maybe not using an LFO, but using the note function of Serum. And the note function is such that the pitch of the notes is actually reflected on the horizontal scale. So let's just play it for now. And you can see, as per the pitch of the notes, it moves up and down, left to right on this scale here. So that gives us an opportunity to use the note function and link that to one of these LFOs, or both, if you want, and just catch the higher frequency notes or the lower frequency notes. Let's just do this for now. This control is not as friendly as the LFOs and envelopes, but it's still doable to manipulate it. And let's just do something like that, and we'll play it, and we'll figure out, based on moving this around a bit, which ones are applicable. Of course, I've got to drop it onto a bus. And for simplicity's sakes, let's just turn this one off right now, so we can we can see what only the note function is doing to the delay. So the delay, nothing lights up yet. Okay, and that's actually a good start. I just started with that, and I didn't even have to move this around. But typically, I move it around up and down a bit, and then I discern which notes do I want to, you know, uh, get into this delay and which ones I want to keep out. But this is a good start. So now I've got the note set up, and you can even use both. You can use the note as well as the length, the note pitch, as well as the length of the notes. You can drop it both uh, on a specific, uh, control. And both of these are now going to, so the longer notes as well as the higher notes are going to be delayed. And that's basically it, folks. I wanted to show you this and hand it over to you and say, download the preset and make it your own, play around with it, tweak it. It's really, really a cool way to isolate notes and apply effects to specific notes using the bus effect. So with that, thanks for your time. I hope you enjoy the content, and I'll see you in the next one.